Didn't see the curls. Still no haircut. What's going on, everybody? Welcome. Today's episode, we're going to be going into how I made this in Photoshop from the last thumbnail. Let's get into it. G'day everybody, welcome back to this episode. It's happy to be here. I missed out last week on recording a video, so I'm absolutely stoked to be back here and teaching you guys another tutorial. I was with my daughter last week. We had a little fathers, daughters sort of thing for Father's Day at the daycare that I take her to, so I didn't get to film something last week. But you guys didn't miss out on the weekly uploads because I've been ahead of schedule, so you guys shouldn't miss out. So it feels good to be back. Now, today's episode, we're going to be talking about how I made the little audio, little wave looking thing on top of the thumbnail that I did last episode. And it didn't really take too long to do, so hopefully this is a quick little tutorial for you guys. It's not sort of 15-minute job that we've been carrying on with the last probably 5 to 10 episodes. So I'm going to try and ram as much information as I can into this video so we don't have to sit here and you have to waste your guys' time. Now, with all that out the way, let's go jump straight into Photoshop and let's just get it. Okay, so you want to go File, New. We're just gonna open up a document. Let's just say, I'm just gonna go here. I've got one already preset, 1500 by 1500 pixels, 300 DPI. I'm just gonna click that one there. Go create. Okay, once this is opened, let's unlock the background layer. Now, this stuff is made in custom brushes. This is how I did it. So what I did here was I need to first create sort of I had to think about what did a audio wave actually consist of. It's just a line, okay, if you think about it. So we're gonna go straight to the brush tool, and obviously that line, if we draw a line with that size brush, it's going to be way too big. So I think I went down to about, went up to here, let's say, I think it was 6 pixels. And I'm just going to click roughly in the middle of the page. So I'm going to click once. Now I'm going to hold the shift key, and then I'm going to go down the page some sort of distance, and then I'm going to click again. And that's going to create me a straight line. That's how you can do straight lines in Photoshop. If you wanted to do the other way, you just click, hold shift, click again, and it'll join those dots. Now the next thing we need to do is make a custom brush for just that one line. Now once we make a custom brush of this one line, then I'm going to go into the actual custom brush settings, and I'm going to show you guys how you can change this one line to be multiple lines. So let's select this one. Now one thing before I got a bit ahead of myself there. Before we have to make the selection of the single line we just draw, we need to delete the background when we make a custom brush. So what we need to do is go onto the layer here. We can double click. This is going to bring up the blend if option, and I've brought this up in a few different tutorials already, but we're working with this layer. We're going to grab the white slider. We're going to drag it to the left just a little bit. That's pure white, so that means that's gonna just completely delete that white background. After you've done that, you press OK. Now we can go ahead with making our selection. So let's draw a box around there. We'll go to go to Edit, and we go to Define Brush Preset. Gonna label this as audio wave line. Press OK. Now we have a brush which is just a single line. Now we can press Ctrl D to deselect. Now we have our custom brush. We can go back to the brush tool, and you can see in here I've got this one here selected, the one we just made. Now we have this as one line. So now what we can do, if we have, we're painting with black on a white so you can see it. If you press it once, it's just going to draw one line, okay? Control Z. Now, once we've created this new layer, now we're free to draw anything. So anything we draw on this layer, we'll be able to move it around. So if we just draw a single line, then that's what our brush looks like at the moment. So what we can do now, we've got this layer by itself and we can draw on that. If you go to the brush settings, and if you haven't got this, you can go to Windows and you can go to brush settings and turn that on. So if we go to brush settings, these are the things that we're interested in. And if you look at this box here at the bottom at the moment, this is sort of what it's gonna look like if you sort of paint, you know, if I just hold down and paint, it's gonna look exactly like that. Let me just zoom out a bit for you so you can see it a bit better. Okay, so if I paint like this, it's gonna be exactly what it looks like on the bottom of the page there. Now, there's a few things that I did here, so I can change these things. I turned on this one here called scattering. And what's cool about this is you can actually, when you're adjusting these sliders, it'll kind of preview what your brush will look like. So if you turn on scattering, look at how much it's already down the bottom there. So now if I drag, it's gonna look like that. So we can really have a play around with it. This one here, the count, that's bunching it real close together. So let's bring that as far down as possible. And you can just play around with this. There's so many things you can do with this whole thing. The next thing I did was, you can do angle if you want. This one here, size jitter, this is kind of where it starts to come into a bit more of an effect. And this is also, I wanted to make the brush maybe a little bit smaller. So if we make that a little bit smaller, you can really start to see what kind of effect we're getting. Like, you can really come up with some cool things just from a simple line, and then you can go into this and you can really sort of make a crazy looking brush just from one line. But basically guys, that's all I did here. I just turned on shape dynamics and I adjusted the size jitter. I didn't touch the angle. The roundness jitter I turned up, and then the scattering, you can turn that up to sort of whatever. You can have a play around, really have a play around with it. And the count, you probably want to keep the count quite low, and then the count jitter. Another thing as well, I just remembered there's a little tick box here that says both axis. So when you this is on the scattering slider, so when you scatter it, if you turn that box on, it's going to scatter it up and down. It's also going to scatter it left and right. So if you click and drag, it's going to, if you're asking it to paint a line there, it's going to also paint lines up and down from the exact spot that you pressed. So we can also turn the size jitter down a little bit if you have both of those on. Now, once you're happy with all your settings that you've got, you can just click out of this. Now, when you just remember, when you paint, to always paint on a new layer. So you just want to click once, and then you can hold shift like I showed you guys. You can click again, and then that can just draw a straight line, and then you're going to get this cool looking audio effect that we just got like we did last time. Now if we go back into a document that we actually want to put this effect on, so let's just open an image. Now you've got this brush set up the way you want to do it. If you want to bring up an image that you want to put it on, like I've just brought up this image, the exact same image that I used for the thumbnail. You want to get your custom brush. Once you've opened your layer, obviously unlock your layer, Control J to duplicate it so you don't mess anything up. Turn the background layer off. Now create a new layer on top. And rename this Audio Waves. Enter. Alright, so now we can go B for brush tool. Click up here. Audio waves, lines. Okay, that's our custom brush. Now, we obviously don't want to paint in black. I painted in white. So what I did was I just clicked once and then clicked. Why has it done that? Okay, let's have a look. Okay, not sure just what happened there, guys, but when I opened up my new document, all the settings disappeared off my brush settings. So maybe For your case, don't do what I did. Just open up your image first and then start maybe just dialing in your brush settings on the document that you want to use. I don't know why it did that, but just so you guys don't have to make that same mistake. Okay, so I've set the brush settings back. We're on audio wave layer. Make sure that layer is selected with the little white box. We're gonna click this so we're in white, and then we're gonna click once, and then we're gonna click again, and it's gonna make your little waves that you wanted. Now you can obviously, now it's on its own layer, you can use the arrow keys with the move tool. You can move this up or down exactly where you want it. I didn't move it too close over my eyes. The second thing I did was, the next thing I did was I created another layer, and on this layer I named it gradient. Now with the gradient tool, which is this tool here, if you click up here, you can see where your gradients are. You can click any of these. I just made mine. You can just double click also on that little box, and you can just choose what colors you want here. So these little boxes down the bottom, you can just double click on this. It'll open up the color picker. You can pick exactly what color you want on both sides. Click the same here. And then you can also control where it transitions the colors together. So, and you can, if you want, you can actually click here. You can actually click in the middle there, and you can actually add a third color. So you could add even a yellow. Let's add a yellow as well. And then you can move the transition as well between those three colors. Click that, it'll bring up this little box. You can move that to where you want. Now, all it's saying is from the left side to the right side, or whichever way you click, it's going to start off with that color, and then wherever you finish clicking, that's going to be that color. So what I did here was, obviously, I sort of started, I'll make sure you're on this layer. You want to click sort of near the white of the audio lines. Click, you can drag, you can hold shift so it's nice and straight, and drag, just go past the white lines on the other side and let go. This has created a gradient over the whole image. Now we don't want it to be over the whole image, obviously. So a cool little thing to do is you can clip an effect just to one layer. So you can hold down the Alt or Option button if you're on a Mac, and if you hover between this layer and the other layer, you'll see there's a little box and a little arrow. That means it's going to clip that gradient effect just to the audio waves. So if you press that and click, now you've clipped that gradient to that. That's why we make all these things on a separate layer. So you can also move this gradient around by itself. You can see here, if you move it too far, it's going to obviously disappear. And same on the other side, but you can just dial it in exactly where you want it. And then obviously the rest of the thumbnail, there was some little words and stuff on there, but that's not what you were here for. They're here for how we made these lines, and that's how you do it. That's it, guys. That's how I got my little thumbnail to look like it had audio lines all on it. Obviously there's a bit more involved after that when I put the writing and the numbers and all that sort of stuff. But that's it. I love custom brushes. I hope you guys found something useful out of this. That doesn't mean you have to go and create audio lines unless you're making your own YouTube videos on audio, and you're probably not going to ever actually make these audio lines, but this is more of a video on what we can do in Photoshop. There's plenty of things you can have fun with, and there's plenty of, I'm just showing you from a simple line what I've created. Just by turning on the brush settings and going through, you can go absolutely nuts with the things you can do in custom brushes. I hope this video wasn't too long for you guys. I tried to keep it as short as possible, tried to ram as much information in as I could. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe, hit the little notification bell so you don't miss the next episode. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace. Are you still here? Look at these curls. No good. All right, I'm out.